Hi everybody, this is Oksana and today we're going to make this pendant here. What I love about this pendant is that it has a nice simplistic design. I was going through some really old photos and I saw something like this that I made many years ago, and I thought, well, this is a great design because it can be unisex and it doesn't have a lot of swirls for people that don't like swirls, just kind of a clean cut look. And it works great for a teardrop shape where the teardrop is positioned up, which I don't do very often. I love to position my teardrops point down because that leaves me like a lot of negative space up here to tuck wires in and such, but this is a great one if you want to position a teardrop point up. And so if you want to see how I made this pendant, just keep watching. So we're starting out with 3 pieces of 20 gauge square copper wire, and they measure about 8 inches in size, and it is dead soft copper. And let me measure my stone for you. I forgot the name of the stone. It was some kind of really unique type of stone that I haven't owned before, and I happen to forget the name of it. It does kind of look like Sticktite, but it's not. So it's just a little bit less than an inch. If I were to measure it in millimeters, probably about 25 millimeters, I would say. For my connecting wire, I'm going to be using this half round wire. It's 24 gauge. It is also dead soft copper, and it is half round. RioGrande.com is where I buy my wire. And I'm just going to take this bit here, and I'm going to kind of line up my 3 wires here. They're square, so they kind of stack together nicely like this. I'm going to grab the middle, and I'm just going to wrap the flat side down and the half round side up. Just going to grab the end of this wire and just wrap this way with this little tail end of the wire, and then I will go ahead and trim it. I'm going to wrap for a little bit. You don't need too much theoretically, but I want to do a little more for this particular design than I normally do. And now we just trim the little ends of the wire so that they are here all on the same side together. And I'm just grabbing my pliers and pressing down on those wire ends and just pressing down on this whole bit here, and this way as well, like that. So this part, we'll want to hide it away because it's got the wire ends, and what I want to do is I'm going to form a point on the bottom of this like this by bending it with my pliers, and I want the wire ends to be in here on the inside, not here on the outside. So I'm just going to reinforce that point a little more, and if your little wraps, maybe there's too many on one edge versus the other and it's uneven, you can always unravel a couple and trim it to make the edges more even. And I'm just going to take my stone now just to see how it would sit in here. I do want it to have a little point on the bottom, even though it is a teardrop shaped stone. This is just kind of the look that I'm going for. You don't have to, you can just shape it around the stone itself. But then you'll see there's another reason that I'm doing this. There's going to be some wires. I'm just shaping this around my stone now. There's going to be some wires, and I'm going to use this bottom portion to just kind of tuck them away. So it is useful in this particular design to have a little gap on the bottom like this. And now I'm just going to bring these wires together here at the top, and I am just squishing them together, but don't squish too hard, because what we want to do is we're going to separate. We're going to take this frontmost wire Almost kind of have to straighten it now since I put a little bend in it. I'm gonna take the frontmost wire on each side and just move it out of the way here, because we're gonna do something different with those wires. So now, we did want to, you know, bend them at least a little bit because they are going to follow this shape, but they're just not going to be part of the bale up here. So I'm just bending the remaining wires, trying to get a nice tight bend up here. And what I'm going to do is reinforce that a little bit with my pliers. Just kind of press on it, make the little bends sharper like this. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my half round wire one more time. Make sure this is nice and just kind of stacked together like this. And now I'm going to grab the tail end, grabbing this little tail end, and first just wrapping it around to connect everything while it's nice and lined up together like this. All right, so everything is connected. I'm going to push this little wrap down. I'm going to take this little wire end here and just kind of pull it through the middle, and now just trim it. So it's nice and short. You can use your pliers to just kind of further push on that little wire end to make sure it's, you know, you can't feel it and it's tucked away. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna wrap around the front, these front two wires here for our bale. So I'm gonna just separate them out by bending them forward and then bending the other wires just a little bit back like this. And because the wire is on the spool, I'm not using the little wire end anymore. I'm using the rest of the wire that's connected to the spool. What I have to do is I have to guide it with my hand, and I turn the piece. And that's the best way to wrap that around. So I'm just gonna do this for a little bit. You can see it's starting to form this part of the bale. I'm just gonna keep going with it. All right, so here's how mine is. It's probably just a little bit less than an inch. And what you want to do is you actually don't want to just trim off the wire like we normally do when we're finished with our bale. You want to leave yourself a nice long bit of wire. So I just trimmed it and left myself a nice long bit, maybe like 7 inches or so. That's probably too long, but better longer than too short. And now that you've done that, you can go ahead and just press on this whole bale. Just flatten and press down on that wire like this. And now we're gonna go ahead and grab our stone, pop it in here. Whoops, there we go. Fits very nice and snug into the frame. So what we want to do is on the back here, we're just going to bend these backmost wires onto the stone to prevent it from popping out the back. So one side, and we're just going to do that on the other side as well. All right, here's what that looks like from the back. So my stone kind of popped out a little bit when I was doing that. All right, so we can't 100% fully lock it in from the front yet because we need these wires. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line them back up kind of like we had them, but they're loose now. They're not part of that bale. So I'm just gonna push them against the stone like this, and before I lock in my stone, I am going to connect them. So they're not connected at all right now, and I'm going to connect them with just a little piece of half round wire. So if I take a little piece of half round wire, oops, just right up here, and I wrap it around all three of these wires. So the frontmost wire that's not connected plus the other two, just kind of appear towards the top of the pendant. You can see that connection being formed, and you just want to do that a few times so that the connection will be strong. Probably like 4 times. 4 little wraps should be good. Like this. And to finish this off, what we want to do is we want the little wire ends to end up underneath, so they will be covered up and they won't be visible, and you won't be able to like feel them. They won't be able to get caught on anything. So I'm just trimming it, and I'm taking that little wire end and I'm just tucking it in here like this. And then this one, so we had 4 wraps. If I bring it this way, that'll make 5 wraps. So if I wanted to keep it at 4, which, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you have 4 or 5, but what you would do is just get in here, trim it underneath, because it's already where we want our wire end to go, which is under here, and just press down on that little wrap. So here's what it looks like from the front, and now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So here on the other side, we're just going to take a little bit of wire, half round wire, and wrap it around 4 times as well, just here in this little area towards the top. I'm just going to pull it tight so there's no gaps between my wires. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we're just going to trim it the same way. So I'm leaving myself a little wire end here to tuck away, and then this wire, I'm just getting under there and trimming it underneath. Okay, so I'm just going to push this little wire end under here, and I'm just going to press down on this little wrap, and I'm going to push it together. So now we have both of those, and I'm going to pop my stone in from the front because we had locked it from the back, so it's easy just to pop it in through the front like this. And these wires, you can see the little ends of them coming out. What we're actually going to do with them is we're going to curve them downwards. So we'll finish it up in a minute here, but I'm worried about locking the stone in from the front, so I guess this kind of traps the top of it, but not the bottom. So what you want to do is you want to wedge your pliers in here, and then see how that frontmost wire is kind of separated, and then I'm just sliding them down here to where the stone ends, and I'm putting a little bend in it like this, and that traps the stone. So same thing on this end, just sliding it down to where the stone ends, and then just tilting them to form this little bend, and now the stone is trapped from the front. So what we're gonna do with these is you can mess around and kind of get the look that you want. Like, I think I like when one of them is a little bit smaller and the other one is a little bit bigger, like this. But you could try to make them, you know, perfectly symmetrical if you prefer that. And then what I want to do is I want to connect them with my half round wire. So I'm going to get in here and I'm just going to raise them up a little bit from the stone. See how they're raised now? So I did that so that I can get in here with some half round wire. So with my little piece of half round wire, I'm just putting it under here. And I'm just going to be wrapping it around as many times as you want. I would say at least like 3 times, just so it's enough so that it stays put. All right, so I'm just going to do 4. So this is 3, and then I'll finish it up. It'll be, actually no, I'll just leave it at 3. So this is the tricky part, is I need to get under here now. Let me raise it some more to trim these little wire ends, because we want the wire ends to all be hidden under here. So I managed to trim one of them. Let me push that one down. There we go. And there's the other bit there. It's going to be hard to get to. Maybe if I hold it upside down like this. Because the problem is if you trim it not short enough, it might stick out and you might see it. You need it to be really short so it stays here on the underneath part. All right, so now I'm gonna just press down on that, and I'm gonna press this whole thing back down onto the stone, and then here's the result. You can see the little wraps that got formed. So now it's being held together. There we go. This is how I want it to be. One small one, one big one. Now I'm going to bend them to the back. Kind of lock them in their place here, like this. And here on the back, we're still going to use this little bit. It's coming up soon. As soon as we finish these, we're moving up onto the bale. So here on the back, what we're going to do is we want to tuck them in through this little gap. So I'm just bending them and tucking them through. And then you just want to press down on this so it's nice and flat up against your stone. And then I'm just going to pull it from this is the front. It's coming out the front here. Just going to pull it here to the back. Okay, so same thing with this other one. Going to tuck it in through that little gap. Make sure this is flat and tight so this little bit isn't raised, and then bring it to the back here. So here's how it ends up looking in the back, and in the front this bit looks the same, but then you have this on the bottom. You can kind of see where we tucked in those wires. So what we're going to do to finish them off is I'm just going to line them up so they're right underneath that little wrap here that we did, and I'm just going to trim them, leave little wire ends, so you can just take that little wire end and just tuck it in there, and then just press down on it to essentially just close up that little loop. So tuck it in there and pinch it closed. So from the front, my stone got kind of pushed a little bit by that, so I'm just going to reinforce these little bends here that are holding my stone in, because one of them got a little bit moved and I don't want my stone to not be secure. Okay, so now it's all good and secure again. So now it's time to finish up the top portion. All right, so unfortunately, the bail portion didn't record, so I'm gonna redo it for you here. So all I did is these back wires that were here, I just trimmed them really short. And since I lost that footage of me getting rid of those back two wires, I'm inserting this clip here. This is a clip from another video, but I actually did the same thing to the back wires in this video. So I'm gonna push them down and trim them off, and this is exactly how you wanna do that. And now I just have the bail to do. So I'll show, this is a little curved because I had it connected and then I had to undo it to show you guys since it didn't record. But what you want to do is just take the bail portion and just bend it down all the way down like this. And this is why we needed that long bit here of the half round wire, because we're going to wrap around all the way around 2 times like this, and that's going to connect our bail. And then I'm just raising these up, then we're taking that same half round wire and just wrapping it around these 2 wires only, just to finish it off so it doesn't unravel. And then we will trim that off. So I'm just wrapping it around a few times. I would say 5 times should be good. Let's see, there we go. And then after you've wrapped it around at least 5 times, we're just gonna trim it. Then we're gonna take that little wire end and we're gonna just tuck it under here. Just like this, to get rid of it. Press it down. There we go, now it's completed. This bail portion is attached. So we just have to finish up these 2 little wire ends. So what I'm gonna do with them is I am gonna curve them, so you can cut them to whatever size that you want. Because mine were originally longer. I had cut them down a little bit, and now I've made a little loop. So you can try to do like symmetrical loops in the same spot, or kind of keeping with the design in the front where one side is a little smaller than the other. You could make them kind of asymmetrical like this, where one is higher and one is lower, totally up to you. So all that's left to do is to connect them. So we're just gonna connect them with some half round wire. So we're gonna take the half round wire, we're gonna tuck it underneath this wire here on the back, because we wanna connect it first. We wanna first connect our half round wire to the piece. So just like this, I'm gonna wrap around this back wire here a few times to connect my half round wire. Maybe like 5 times should be good, 4 or 5. Okay, I think that's adequate. And now I'm just gonna trim off that little wire end. Just gonna get in there, trim it short so that it's not sticking up here. So you can slide this up to your little loop. Oops. There we go. Just like this. Now we're gonna take this little end here and we're gonna put it through the loop, but also underneath this wire here. So we're connecting the loop to that wire. So just like this, and now it's connected. So we can now just finish off our wire by wrapping only around this wire now. Again, probably like 4 times should be adequate. 4 or 5 times. All right, so now I'm just gonna trim that. And that little wire end you see, I'm just gonna take it with my pliers, tuck it down in there, and tuck it away. All right, so here you can see the connected little loop, and now we just have to do the same thing here on this other side. So first I am actually gonna do this. I'm gonna tuck this wire under here. Which it doesn't really want to do. What you can do is just raise it up a little bit if you're having trouble tucking your half round wire underneath. All right, here we go. So I've tucked it under, and I'm just gonna wrap it around a few times here to make a nice little connection before I attach my loop. This side is definitely giving me more trouble today. So let's just wrap that around. One more time. That should be good. There we go. I'm gonna just trim that little end and tuck that down, get rid of that little wire end there. So now we've made a connection here. And what I'm gonna do is just kind of move this loop out of the way for a second so I can slide that up. There we go. So I'm gonna connect this little loop now by tucking the wire underneath the loop and this other wire. Pull on that. You can see that little connection that's been made, and now we just have to finish wrapping this wire around. Just this single wire here. Oops, sorry, I hit my camera. Just wrapping it around this single wire. That'll prevent it from getting unraveled. So you can see that here. Those little loops are forming. Almost done. All right, so I think just one more time here should be adequate. Perfect. So now I'm gonna trim that. Here's my little wire end. I'm gonna take my little wire end and tuck it down in there and tuck it away. All right, so now here is our completed back. What I would look for is just see how these wires are a little bit raised. You can just push them down with your pliers to flatten it like this, so it's just right nice and up against the stone. Same thing here on this end. Just like that. And if that makes it get raised from the front, which it can, then what you need to do is just put a little bend in this wire first. That'll just kind of shorten it a little bit, pull it down from the front. There we go. So now it's nice and flat in the back, and these are not raised on the front either. So I'm just checking my bail, make sure it's all straight, symmetrical, perfect. The stone is still trapped in. These didn't move, but if they did, you can just kind of reinforce them a little bit. And the pendant is completed. And here it is on a little cord necklace. I love this design because it's just very simplistic and it doesn't have a lot of swirls for people that don't like swirls. So here it is. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.